at the moment, but they could quickly become severe, producing a burst of wind or a possible tornado. Speaking of which, here's our tornado warning for northern Baker County into southern Charlton County, extreme northwestern. It doesn't look like it quite gets, I guess they cut it off at Nassau County the way it looks. Okay, they did. So it's southern Charlton, extreme northern Baker County. The circulation is very near Eddy right now. It'll be into Traders Hill, very tiny little area at 222. Folkestone potentially at 226. Not under the tornado warning officially in Folkestone, but it could be extended if the circulation maintains itself as it heads to the northeast. Here's some of the safety rules for a tornado. If we can go to computer number 2, it is ready to go. Here's what you should do during a tornado warning if it is issued. Tornado safety. First of all, we want you to stay calm, but also go to the interior part of the room, of the home, of the building that you are in. So this, for example, is a home. So in the middle of a closet offers better protection typically. A hallway can be pretty good, and especially a bathroom because you have extra pipes from the plumbing, and the integrity of a bathroom has a tendency to hold up better during a tornado. Get out of mobile homes, stay away from windows, protecting your head and face, and do not get in an automobile when and if a tornado warning is issued. Here are some of those other safety measures that I just spoke about. Safest place, of course, would be a basement. We don't have those in northeast Florida and southeast Georgia, at least largely. There are a few people that have managed to get a storm shelter. That's your best, obviously your best protection. But otherwise, it's the middle of your home and or the bathroom that offers you some of your best protection. Trevor?
Yeah, Mike, just want to give an update. We've got a new severe thunderstorm warning issued in advance of this tornado warning for northern Baker heading into Charlton County, and it does include northern Nassau County into southeastern Georgia. So a lot on this map right now. I'll turn the radar off just so you can see here very quickly these boxes. So the red box, that's the tornado warning, northern Baker County into southern Charlton County, right up to the southwest of Folkestone. But now Folkestone, Woodbine, Kingsland, Hilliard under that severe thunderstorm warning for those severe thunderstorm winds in excess of 58 miles per hour, very heavy rain. I've got the lightning icons turned on as well, so there is frequent lightning. But in addition to the lightning, again, it's quick, heavy rain, very strong winds will continue to stream through the region, and that tornado warning for northern Baker County does continue, Mike, until 2:15 this afternoon.
All right, and we are simulcasting on the radio side, as we typically do on 104.5 WOKV. So for our radio listeners, if you're in your vehicle, wherever you might be right now, in radio speak, heading north and west of Jacksonville right now is not a good idea. The best advice would be to just stay put. This is a fast-moving system. It won't be around for very long, so if your area is under a tornado warning, it won't be for a particularly long period of time, and it'll be gone, and you'll be able to move on and get your activities done this afternoon and travel. But right now, the best advice is to not go west on I-10 or north on I-95 for just a little while here. Let these storms pass. If you're headed south out of Jacksonville, you're okay for the moment, but that won't last particularly long. By about roughly 3:30 to 4 o'clock, those storms are making it all the way to the coast of at least Duval County, and probably before then, and then St. Johns County as well. But headed south out of Jacksonville, you can do that right now on I-95, but headed west on I-10 or north on I-95, a particularly difficult and potentially dangerous situation setting up this afternoon. And we do have the tornado warning for the northern portions of Baker County, and there you can just see the southern edge of the tornado warning. It is north of I-10, the tornado warning, but is in effect for far northern Baker County, just a little bit north of Taylor, a little bit northwest of Baxter. The edge of that tornado warning probably does include St. George, I would say, in Charlton County, pretty little community right on the Florida-Georgia line. There's Hilliard comes into view where we have the severe thunderstorm warning. That means the potential for strong winds. And then I think St. George will might be a little south of the tornado warning for St. George, or pop in there. There it is. Yep, just a little south. There's Highway 121. We're on street level mapping now on 5-Sweep First Alert Doppler HD. In St. George, that tornado warning is just a little to your north, but it's close. It is pouring right now in St. George. And there's the strong wind. We now have the winds on 5-Sweep First Alert Doppler HD. And this would be that possible tornado signature now crossing Highway. Move that up just a bit, Trevor. 2. So the strongest winds right along Highway 2 now and crossing into southern Charlton County, very highly rural area, but heads up, folks, and it looks like there's a surge of wind now also making its way through in the southern portions of the Okefenokee Swamp. And how about maybe the debris tracker as this moves to the northeast? Again, a heads up for folks. And let's take a look at the debris tracker. Not seeing much there, Trevor. I think you would agree.
Agree.
So, and by that I mean what we're seeing here now, folks, is literally debris if there is debris lofted into the atmosphere. You would see bright and changeable colors. We just have another statement from the National Weather Service in Jacksonville. Okay, looks like that's just an update, and but we're not indicating debris would be the upshot here, which is encouraging, even though there still could be very strong straight line winds at the very least with this storm that could produce its damage in itself as well. Moving northeast, 50 to 55 miles per hour. Let's widen. Let's go to the home view again and show you this wider view as the storms continue to develop south and west. We also have something there not too far from Lake City, it looks like. Just south of Lake City, maybe we need to look at carefully. But there's rain moving into western Duval County. It's not severe at the moment, but we do have occasional lightning strikes. Any of these could become severe quickly. And then we have the main area of severe weather at the squall line on the back edge. And it looks like a tornado warning has been issued out of Tampa there right along the Big Bend coast. And I want to zoom into Lake City here real quick, Trevor, because the southern end of that looks a little suspicious near Lake City, where they do have a severe thunderstorm warning. And remember, when there's a tornado watch in effect, severe thunderstorms can and oftentimes do produce tornadoes with little or no advance warning. Let's put the wind on here, Trevor, and see that. I guess that's probably straight line winds.
I would say so.
Perhaps a downdraft. Looks fairly strong.
Very fast, yeah.
Oh, wow. There we go. What radar are we on?
This is Jacksonville.
So when we're looking at radar, you guys, for our viewers at home and on the radio here, this is west on I-10. This area of high winds will be crossing I-10 in minutes. Heads up, Lake City, and anybody just south of Lake City. It's possible that these winds are aloft enough that they're not making it all the way to the surface, but we can't guarantee that. And we're indicating winds of 90 to 95 miles per hour along Highway 41 and I-75 and approaching I-10 and the Lake City area. This would be the Lake City Gateway, these high winds in a minute, Lulu in a minute, Mount Carey in 4 minutes at 2:06. Olustee, that's I-10 just into Baker County at 2:10, Manspur at 2:18. We could be seeing, I would say that on a day like today, Garrett and Trevor, that winds, if we're seeing these winds, this is probably giving the radar antenna peaking out at about like this, at an angle like this from Jacksonville. That's probably 5,000 feet. 8,000 feet?
Yeah, and here is on max number 2, the one coming from Moody. It's a little bit lower, 50 to 60 miles per hour. About 5 miles difference, give or take, here from the radar sites from Jacksonville versus Moody. So give or take, Mike, but we are seeing a little bit lower, maybe slightly lower in the atmosphere.
And that may be a better sample because it's a little bit closer. The Moody radar is a little bit closer to the cells. Agree or?
Yeah, I was just measuring it out here, and it looks like looks like Moody may be a slight better choice here for Lake City, but we do have a new update for a severe thunderstorm warning. Trevor's checking out here now.
All right, so heads up Lake City, nearby areas, high winds at the very least. Trevor?
Yeah, high winds on the excess of 50, 55 miles per hour, and they're moving very quickly. We've been saying that several times, guys, as these winds really mean business as these storms come through. And you don't have to have a tornado to have those severe winds. You can have straight line winds, and that's the winds that go in one singular direction, and that's what a lot of these are.
New warning.
New severe thunderstorm warning did just pop up. Yep, so you see that flashing yellow box.
Looks like Duval.
Does include western Duval County here, so we'll turn the radar off just for a brief moment to show the box for that warning. You can see the flashing yellow here, including central and western Nassau County, far western Duval County, the rest of Baker County, Union, Bradford, parts of northwestern Clay County as well, now under that severe thunderstorm warning. And that's really just in advance of this squall line, and these warnings will likely continue all the way to the coast over the next couple of hours as that line moves through. So very heavy rain, gusty winds, and these potentially tornadic storms as well, with the circulations moving through. Don't want to forget about southeast Georgia. We still have those active warnings here, but it doesn't necessarily look like that one just north of Waycross will get extended, as that is nearing the end of that warning box. But again, that warning still until 2:15.
Trevor, look at the southern end of that line there, just outside the tornado warning. That's got a suspicious
little bit of a hook to
southern edge there.
Yeah, so that's outside of the warning box, but definitely could see still some strong winds there. We'll turn the velocity on for the Moody radar just to see what the winds are doing. And there's still some strong winds, no sort of couplet yet with that, but the strongest winds continue to be north and east of Blackshear with that storm moving northeast as well. So don't want to forget about the tornado warning up there. That's still until 2:15 this afternoon, but we also have that other tornado warning just outside Folkestone until 2:15 as well, or up to Folkestone, Mike, for the next couple of minutes.
And there's an update on the severe thunderstorm warning that's just come in now too. Yeah, heads up, folks, and this is some high wind moving into you in any minute now, if it hasn't already, with the possibility of a tornado although not a real clear indication of such at the moment. The tornado warning remains. There's an update on the tornado warning. Looks like it's going to just hold.
Just clipped it back a bit.
Because the storm is moving to the northeast, so they've clipped back the southwestern portion of the tornado warning box here, and moves up just to near Folkestone. If it holds together, that'll be eventually expanded to include Folkestone. Most of the schools are not in session this afternoon. Most were either postponed early, called off early, or canceled. The exception is St. Johns County, but 1 hour early dismissal. That should be good for St. Johns County. Let's just quickly widen the view and get St. Johns County into view. As kiddos get out of school here, you do have time. You can see there's not even any rain in St. Johns County for the moment. So that looks to be okay. But don't waste any time getting home or getting somewhere safe as these storms continue to advance to the east and to the northeast now at 50 to 60 miles per hour, just racing. And those are individual cells that are moving so quickly to the northeast, while the whole line gradually shifts eastbound. And realize that on a day like today, with the very strong winds that we already have, tornadoes that may otherwise be relatively weak, an EF0 or an EF1, tornadoes rotate counterclockwise. So the right side of that tornado is going to be augmented. It's going to be even stronger than it typically would be because of the very strong wind field that surrounds it. So an EF0 or an EF1, in other words, could then become an EF1 or an EF2, maybe even slightly stronger tornado than that, given the wind field that we have today, Garrett.
Yeah, and checking in here in the Duval County storms and Baker County storms here on First Alert Doppler HD, we are seeing these winds beginning to move in, and also just seeing some reports here, some lawn furniture displaced here in the McClinney area, so some winds there. And also, let's take a look at our First Alert traffic camera network here. We've got this on I-10, and this is just east of Highway 301, so right where these showers are beginning here on our traffic camera network here from FDOT. We are seeing some wet roads there all the way out in western Duval County here at the moment. Guys, if we can switch it to the traffic camera behind me, that'd be great. We got it out at I-10, and we have a lot of wet roads here. This will be the case for the next several minutes and a little bit here in northeast Florida and portions of southeast Georgia. But that's a live look. What is the situation now? It's not terrible. The wind isn't too bad right there at the moment, but there's some more wind heading that way. So again, First Alert Doppler HD, we are tracking that, but a live look out at I-10 near Highway 301, Mike.
We have some other sky cams we can also look at, you guys. It may not be a bad idea to take maybe a look at the international airports just getting ready to get into the heavy rain. There may be a ground stoppage at the international airport. That's conjecture. I don't know that for a fact, but it's a distinct possibility given the winds and the approaching storms. And that doesn't mean the airport closes or is completely shut down. It just means that landing and takeoffs may be interrupted, may be delayed. Should be able to get underway again in just another, not too long, because again, this is a fast moving pattern and fast moving storms. But here you can see the international airport right now getting a little bit of rain. Sky doesn't look overly threatening. Do have an emergency vehicle there, it looks like on the road there, kind of where you exit from the airport itself. But looks pretty quiet, and that's probably going to be the case here for a little while until the storms have moved on by. As we track on 5-Speed First Alert Doppler HD, an extensive area of heavy rain and storms. No surprise, we've been giving you the first alert on this for a number of days, with the First Alert Weather Day issued early Sunday morning by Trevor, and then it's remained in effect, and we've been tracking this and timing it for you ever since. And that is Garrett was mentioning, the leading edge of some of the heavier rain has already made it to the west beltway of 295, along with an occasional lightning strike. It does not appear to be severe. The most intense part of these storms would be kind of toward the back edge where you see the colors, and then that's where the highest winds would be located as well, and extends southward all the way, crossing Highway 301 now in Stark, north all the way almost into Middleburg. Now it's raining in Middleburg, but heavier storms not far away. And then that extends even more to the south and west to the Big Bend, where we have a tornado warning for a cell that's coming off the Gulf of Mexico. If that holds together, could be an issue for Gainesville and eventually Stark and maybe parts of Putnam and Clay County. Let's go back to that tornado warning here quickly on the Florida-Georgia border, because the cell has really consolidated into a solid line over Folkestone with a burst of lightning in the vicinity of Folkestone, which indicates typically an intensifying storm. So if it's not a tornado here approaching Folkestone, it is a lot of wind. We're likely seeing winds of at least 50 to 60 miles per hour locally, perhaps even stronger. So let's put the winds on here. This is how heavy it's raining. Brighter the colors, the heavier the rain, as you can see with that key there, the legend. This is now wind, and it shows you with whether or not the wind is moving away from the radar site or is moving toward the radar site. This is, I assume, the Jacksonville radar, Trevor? So this is out of Jacksonville, the international airport over northern Duval County, and the brighter the color, the stronger the winds in this case. So we're getting a surge of wind now headed into Folkestone, and that's under the banner, Trevor, so we'll have to move it up just slightly. But Trevor has spotted a hot spot, so to speak, there over northern portions of, well, now into southern portions of Charlton County, and we're seeing at least winds approaching 60 miles per hour there with those brighter colors that are headed, making a beeline here for Folkestone. And as you'd expect, they weaken as you get closer to Folkestone because the colors are not as bright. So the winds are not likely that strong at the moment in Folkestone, but will really crank up here in just the next couple of minutes. It won't take long for that area of stronger winds to move northeast and cross Highway 301. You can see the warnings that we have in effect right now. Let's track those stronger winds toward Folkestone. Trevor, we already have heavy rain in Folkestone. We have plenty of lightning, but those stronger winds are going to head to the northeast. Boy, that's really starting to light up with the lightning. Those stronger winds headed into Folkestone here in just about 5 minutes. So you'll get a burst of wind that could cause some tree damage and power lines down. Homeland at 216, Coleraine at 224, Bullhead Bluff at 229, and Tarboro at 235 for those stronger winds now, very near the Florida-Georgia border, crossing Highway 1 and then into Folkestone and crossing Highway 301 within just the next 5 to 10 minutes or so, Garrett.
Give a little update on the forecast here over the next several minutes. The updated high-resolution forecast model data as we continue on here now at 2:11. Let's go to the 3 p.m. hour as this progresses off to the east. So it'll get closer and closer with that squall line portion that's now getting a little bit jumbled up here in all the rain. But we are going to see that 4, 5, and 6 p.m. pushing offshore here for the rest of the afternoon. And then we begin to dry out into the evening. So still under a tornado watch for the areas shaded in red. Does not include like the Tallahassee area anymore, but all of our local viewing area and extending all the way up into southern Virginia now, tornado watches. So locally we're tracking that tornado warning and then also just the strong storms that are continuing to move off to the east, Mike.
Yeah, the upshot of that is if you're traveling, best advice is to delay it for the time being. You don't have to delay it for long, but as Garrett just showed you, going north on I-95 or south on I-95, it's a tornado watch for hundreds of miles, literally north on I-95 all the way through the Carolinas to Virginia, and then south on I-95 through a good part of Florida, west on I-10 to Lake City. But the good news for Lake City is you're on the back edge of the heaviest rain, and your severe weather threat will be over in a very short amount of time here. And what we'll see gradually is that tornado watch is shaved off from west to east as this line progresses west to east. And we have had confirmed damage in a number of spots through the Panhandle in northwestern Florida, and we're getting reports of strong winds too, working their way now into, of course, the Highway 301 corridor, and pretty soon here now the I-95 corridor, with individual cells moving north-northeast at some 50 to 60 miles per hour, while the entire line shifts eastward more gradually, but the net movement is east-northeast, and it's fast, so expect fast-changing conditions, Trevor.
That the tornado warning for Charlton County is going to be expired at 2:15. So while there is still some tremendously heavy rain and a lot of lightning and gusty winds moving over Folkestone now, the tornado warning that was just up against the county has been allowed to expire or will expire in a couple of minutes. We're not really seeing that signature on the radar of a tornado on the ground producing any damage, but the wind speeds that we're seeing this afternoon in excess of 50 miles per hour, 58 for the severe thunderstorm warning, could still cause some instances of damage. But this red box that you see here, that's going to go away in just a couple of minutes. Still be very careful though. If you're in Folkestone, I'd advise against traveling at least for the next couple of minutes while this thunderstorm passes through. Very heavy rain continues to spread all across northern and western Nassau County, including Hilliard down to Briceville, over into Camden County in southeast Georgia. Kingsland seeing some rain, and more of that heavier rain now beginning to impact more of the I-95 corridor in southeast Georgia, Mike. But the good news is, at least for this specific tornado warning, that will expire pretty soon.
That's an intense storm, though, as you mentioned, Trevor. And in fact, Garrett pointing out there might be a little bit of small hail associated with that storm, too. It's not the kind of day where we most likely get a lot of hail or large hail, but maybe some. And we're still seeing signs of this line intensifying as it moves through Folkestone. So besides the high winds, the heavy rain and lightning, we need to watch the tail end of that cell for an attempt at some rotation or any cells that may try to kind of curl in with the line, and those curls can sometimes be an indication of rotation. Garrett's now posted with the First Alert Storm Analyst. We're taking a vertical cross-section of the storm, and that's pretty interesting. And I assume, Garrett, you can see that little notch where we have the bright colors suspended there at between 15 and 20,000 feet high to the atmosphere. That is a hail signature, Garrett.
Yeah, and so I was investigating this area. You saw the lightning increase, and let's put Max 1 back up here. That's what we're looking at here, I believe. You can see actually the wind pushing the thunderstorm off in the direction of motion here, and then some of these brighter colors indicating the potential for that hail. Also the lightning increasing, some friction going on up there in the atmosphere likely, and so likely a little bit, at least small hail going on up in that thunderstorm near and north of Folkestone, Georgia. Haven't got any reports yet of that falling down to the ground per se, but there is that potential at least for some of those hailstones. Looking at a cross section here of 30,000 feet, 20 to 30,000 feet up into the sky using our First Alert Storm Analyst, Mike.
104.5 WOKV. We continue to simulcast with our radio partners on 104.5 WOKV as these storms move rapidly to the northeast. All tornado warnings in our viewing area for the moment, northeastern Florida and southeast Georgia, have expired, but there are a number of severe thunderstorm warnings, which means the potential for damaging winds. And remember that severe thunderstorms can and occasionally do produce tornadoes with little or no advance warning. Looks like we have an updated severe thunderstorm warning now that will include Bradford, parts of Putnam County, too, just in from the National Weather Service. So no surprise here. That's and that is actually out ahead of the squall line, it would appear. So it's for this storm that's just north of Interlochen, moving into Keystone Heights now, and that'll cut up across Clay County and extreme southern Duval. We need to watch that cell to rotate, Trevor, maybe.
Because that's ahead of the squall line, so there's still some instability that's available for these areas here that have been able to heat up into the mid and upper 70s today despite all the cloud cover. We've been talking about the wind shear, so the environment is favorable for the development of tornadoes. That's why there's that tornado watch in effect all the way to the coast. So a myriad of hazards here, but this cell now entering southern Clay County is going to be worth watching for sure, as it is ahead of the main line, and that's typically a spot where we can see some supercells develop that eventually go on to produce some sort of tornado. But a lot of lightning, heavy rain now uptick with this. Still a lot of lightning in that storm that's moving over Folkestone as well.
Trevor, in fact, Garrett has taken a close-up look at this storm and is indicating potential for high winds. This is a cell we really have to watch, Garrett. Tell us more.
Yeah, so we are watching this, and in fact, I just measured this. This area of light green up against the blue is showcasing that wind, and may even be some broad rotation there in the kind of lower to mid levels of the atmosphere. It was right here moments ago. We just got an update. You can see within one radar scan update, it's moved pretty quickly now from northern Putnam County into southern Clay County here. There's Keystone Heights. We were measuring 50, 60, 70, and even 90-mile-an-hour winds, a little bit off the ground, but it doesn't take much to get those winds down here to the surface. So right there on State Road 100, as you go up into and approaching Keystone Heights, we're seeing the potential for those high winds, and now over the next mere moments likely, that area, if it is getting some wind down to the surface, will be approaching County Road 214, Mike. So we're looking at least some higher reflectivities here in terms of the storm wind depiction here on First Alert Doppler HD.
All right, great catch there, Garrett. And now we're going to track. Trevor's tracking that line of storms that looks potentially dangerous now, particularly dangerous as it cuts up across Clay County. Heads up Belmore in about 4 minutes, 222. Penny Farms on Highway 16 to the west of Green Cove Springs at 230 straight up. Middleburg at 235, Fruit Cove at 243, and Oakleaf at 244. Again, I'm looking at my phone for updated warnings as I get the information in. And we also have, Clay County has a good question, the Emergency Operations Center there, wondering just how fast these are moving. And it's a little bit, it's likely that radar is overestimating the speed, even though it's very fast, because some of the reports are coming out at more than 80 miles per hour. Realistically, Garrett and Trevor, I would say the movement is 50 to 60 miles per hour. I think is probably in any case, it's very fast. And the point is, that's a high wind signature, number one. But any of these that suddenly rotate and produce a tornado, you are not going to have much time to react and to take action. If you hear a loud roaring sound like a jet or train that you're not near train tracks or anything, that's probably the tornado. And you have seconds to get somewhere safe. The best advice is to stay into an interior hallway, somewhere in the middle of the building, lowest part of the building you're in. Do not get into an automobile, and you should not be in a mobile home this afternoon with this severe weather as it moves to the northeast. Let's zoom in on this cell that is stretching out across northern Putnam, southwestern Clay County. Trevor, this continues to intensify from Keystone Heights. We're on street level mapping now. We're on Highway 100, and then extends eastward here, right along Highway 21, that would be, and moving to the north-northeast. Let's take a look at the wind, see if we see anything suspicious. Garrett's already pointed out the very strong winds that are a little elevated, but on a day like today could reach the surface, if not in their full potential, at least somewhat some of that wind. And we're indicating now anywhere from 55 to 65 mile-per-hour winds in the very vicinity of Keystone Heights along Highway 21. That'll move to the northeast very quickly up Highway 30, is that 34, which eventually becomes Blanding, I think. Is that correct? Does that sound 21. 21, okay. And then will eventually become Blanding when you get near and north of Middleburg. So heads up Middleburg, Penny Farms, areas just west of Green Cove Springs on Highway 16 for this kind of what we call an appendage to the storm here. This will eventually merge with the rest of the line, but until it does, this is a particularly strong storm, potentially severe, with high winds that we need to really carefully monitor and track as it moves through Clay County over the next 20 to 30 minutes or so. For Duval County, Metro Jacksonville specifically, the beaches are still quiet, breezy but quiet. Otherwise, there's been some rain downtown, an occasional lightning strike and rumble of thunder. The heavier rain has made it to Highway 301, the Baldwin area down to Maxville, extending north to Briceville near the Nassau-Duval County line. None of this appears to be particularly severe at the moment, but any of these could suddenly produce high winds or that chance for an isolated tornado, Trevor.
Seeing some lightning too out ahead of those storms, so hearing some thunder too over our studios on the south side. Now you can see some of those icons out ahead of the heavier rain, but a rough afternoon for travel, at least for the next couple of hours, and already seeing that now in western Duval County, crossing the St. Johns River pretty soon with some heavy rain. But the focus right now continues to be on this thunderstorm that is entering Clay County, south and southwest of Middleburg right now. Some very heavy rain just moved through Keystone Heights, some very strong winds as well. This is a severe thunderstorm warning for the next half hour, as this is very quickly racing north and east. And again, regardless of if those winds are coming down to the surface, because the storm is moving so quickly, that in and of itself is going to bring in some of those gusty winds on the order of 50 to perhaps 55 miles per hour. So we'll be looking out for any reports of any damage from this as this moves towards Middleburg within the next 10 to 15 minutes, Mike, some more populated areas.
And if it holds together, and at least it partially is likely to do so, southern Duval County in not too long, probably looking in roughly within 30 minutes at least because of that fast movement. So heads up along the Buckman Bridge and the neighborhoods near there, Fleming Island, Orange Park, maybe Mandarin, and then cutting back across Argyle Forest, northeastern Clay County, in other words, in far southern Duval County, as that little east-west oriented line is potentially problematic as it moves to the northeast. I'm also thinking western Duval might be a little suspicious there near and just north of I-10. Trevor's tracking that southern and southwestern Clay County storm. There again is Penny Farms in now 3 minutes, 226. Middleburg at 2:31 in just 8 minutes. Fruit Cove at 2:38. Bay Meadows, now we're into Duval County, would be already at 2:47, and downtown Jacksonville at 2:52. And that's with this potentially intense storm now over southern Clay County. It's moving quickly to the northeast out ahead of the main line, which are the storms that become the most suspicious. Those that are kind of isolated, located out ahead of the main line. The main line is more of a squall line that has the potential to produce damaging straight line winds. Here's the storm that's intensified over Baldwin now, right along and just to the north of I-10, heads up Briceville. That extends back to just north and northeast of McClenny, and that one's moving quickly to the northeast and may also be producing damaging winds. Speaking of Baldwin, Garrett Beanbaugh with a live look.
Yeah, WeatherStem Camera Network. We love it here. Here is Baldwin, western Duval County. You can see there is a little bit of wind there with the flags blowing there. Not intense so far. 71 degrees here with the current temperatures, but we do have some wind, though it doesn't look severe at the moment. Again, this is a live look you're seeing here from western Duval County, the area Mike was just talking about. We are seeing this, tracking it live, ground truth with your eyes is the best thing here. So we are seeing that, Mike, here in the western portion of Duval.
Yeah, and one thing you mentioned how the winds don't look particularly strong, but remember it's not a perfect stream. It's frame by frame. It's not quite like our Skycam network, so it's probably pretty windy would be my guess on this particular shot from the weather stem. And the temperature is 71 degrees, Garrett. Some of the places out ahead of the storms now are between 75 and 80 degrees, and that's just kind of fueling these storms as they move to the north and northeast.
Yeah, so I'll continue monitoring our First Alert Skycam network, our radar, and also our weather stem camera network. Also watching our First Alert neighborhood weather stations as well from you folks at home to see what wind reports you are getting. And of course, later we'll do some rainfall totals as well. Speaking of which, we would expect a quick inch to an inch and a half of rain out of this area of storms today. That's not tremendous when you talk about rainfall totals over, say, a 24-hour period, but it'll be a short amount of time. It's already saturated and wet, so it'll be easier to uproot trees, and there still will be some ponding of water. The swift movement will keep the rainfall amounts in check to a point, but it still will be very heavy for at least some period of time. We have had a wind report outside of the viewing area, Trevor, there, that little icon near the Big Bend. There was a warning there earlier, I think a tornado warning actually. That's probably wind damage?
Yeah, a couple trees down in Dixie County.
And so that storm now has moved to the northeast and is approaching parts of Bradford and Union County. So from Lake Butler extending east towards Stark, damaging winds potentially, no surprise really. And you see the yellow here, might be a good time to take the rainfall off here again and just show you all the warnings. It's easier to see the warnings because it's such a colorful map here. If we take that off here, you can see still have the lightning strikes, but a severe thunderstorm warning, northern Putnam, virtually all of Clay County, Bradford, Union, eastern Columbia, all of Baker, western Duval County, the western half of Nassau County. So the I-95 corridor here soon to be into the heaviest storms and the strongest winds, and then extending northward all the way up into southeastern portions of Georgia. We have severe thunderstorm warnings that go as far east as I-95, and soon will be expanded more than likely to include Brunswick, Jekyll Island, St. Simon's Island, south to St. Mary's. Already includes Folkestone and Waynesville, Nahunta, Thelman, and then just about the back edge now it's getting through Waycross and Blackshear, so that's good news for Waycross and Blackshear. And then to the north here, we do have a tornado warning that's out of our viewing area. So at the moment, it's all severe thunderstorm warnings for Jacksonville, northeast Florida, and southeast Georgia. There are no tornado warnings currently in effect, but that could quickly change. And these storms are intense in southeast Georgia, from west of Brunswick to Folkestone. You can see the red in there, pickup of the lightning there around Woodbine. And these will be moving into Brunswick soon. Would expect to see a severe thunderstorm warning expanded there probably fairly quickly here fairly soon. And then that will continue southward all the way along the I-95 corridor, Trevor.
I want to get back to that one storm that is in northeast Florida that's moving through Clay County right now. Some pretty strong winds and moving quickly toward Middleburg right now. So we'll put this into motion, and you can see here, here's Clay County. There's the St. Johns River, Middleburg. Just to the south of you, some very heavy rain continues to quickly advance northward, and that's supported by some strong winds, which are above 60 to 70 miles per hour off the ground. It's not going to take a whole lot to bring some of those stronger wind gusts down as these come through. So I wouldn't be surprised to hear of reports of some tree damage and some power outages, and in fact we'll check on those power outages in just a moment. But that'll continue to lift north. Stark seeing some heavy rain, but that specific warning stops right now at the river, does not include St. Johns County or central eastern Duval County, but that could change pretty quickly here over the next couple of minutes. And I do want to track this as it is advancing towards the South Beltway as well. Again, moving very quickly. We're going to track it at about 60 miles per hour, give or take a few here. But this is lifting northeast, and it's going to be heading toward Middleburg within the next couple of minutes. Fruit Cove as well by 2:38, Mandarin 2:41, Bay Meadows at 2:47, and then holding together near Jacksonville just before 3 o'clock this afternoon. And this is a strong and severe thunderstorm. So we're talking about those strong winds. It's going to make travel pretty hazardous. So best to stay off the roads if you can as these come through. And it's not only from this direction. We've also got the storms coming in from the west along that squall line, and so that's what's going to continue to make travel pretty hazardous, Mike, over the next hour at least. likely 2 hours towards the coast.
Yeah, strong winds are our greatest concern, but isolated tornadoes too, as we've been talking about. And Garrett has spotted a intensifying area of wind over southeastern Georgia as well. So Garrett, we're tracking that storm, which was the original storm very near Folkestone, I would say, moving to the northeast through parts of Camden County in southeastern Georgia and about ready to cross I-95, Garrett.
Yeah, so I-95 we're watching here right now. It doesn't look like much, but there is some wind here of at least probably 40 to 50 miles per hour just off the surface and trying to get down. And you never know, this may try to wrap up here in terms of a little bit of circulation. So we're watching that one here, crossing 17 right now in Woodbine. Again, it's already likely approaching, if not over I-95 when we get our next radar scan. So there is that potential for some of those high winds that originated back here in Charlton County. And we saw that intensifying thunderstorm. There's also some lightning, some thunder involved with this thunderstorm here as it moves and crosses over I-95 here in Camden County in Georgia, east of Georgia Road 110, and now crossing 17 and I-95 there in Camden County. So we'll continue watching this. No tornado warning, anything like that for this right now, but we are tracking that intensifying thunderstorm as it tries to make its way all the way to the coast. Mike?
Getting a report from Interlochen where that storm originated that's now moving through Clay County, that's isolated and that we're so carefully tracking that they're reporting quite a bit of thunder there. No surprise. And you can see how extensive this line is now from Savannah through Jacksonville all the way to the Big Bend north of Tampa. It eventually, ultimately impacts the entire Florida peninsula. It started overnight and early this morning in the Panhandle. We had dangerous and damaging tornadoes in the vicinity of Panama City and then some other spots in the Panhandle, extending into southwestern Georgia. Since then, it's been largely strong winds that have caused the most damage, and it's been primarily trees and power lines. And that's now what's moving into Duval County. From the southwest to the northeast, we have an update from the National Weather Service. A severe thunderstorm warning now, and no surprise, we were talking about this for Glenn and Camden County in southeastern portions of Georgia. Remember, if you take your First Alert Weather app, your cell phone, if you don't have it already, download the First Alert Weather app. You'll get these warnings as they are issued. And here's the new warning. It's now flashing on your screen for the eastern portions of Camden County. This would include St. Mary's, many of the intracoastal areas here, some pretty popular campgrounds, and then extends west all the way to Kingsland, where they're already under a severe thunderstorm warning, northward to Brunswick, Jekyll Island, and St. Simon's Island, too, will be under this severe thunderstorm warning that's been extended from the storm that Garrett was just addressing now that's crossing I-95 in Camden County. And it looks like it contains, at the very least, some strong winds. And occasionally on our First Alert Storm Analyst, we are seeing some indications of some particularly strong winds, and that's what Garrett was pointing out there. We're also seeing a little bit of a burst of lightning around Briceville now near the Nassau-Duval County line, so that's an intensifying storm. And then we have the one that's been moving north-northeast up through Clay County. Doesn't appear to have a whole lot of lightning, but it's kind of out on its own, like we've been emphasizing over the last few minutes. There it is. You can see it's kind of sticking out there, moving into Middleburg now, stays a little bit west of Green Cove Springs, but this one is the potential to produce especially high winds. We'll have to watch for any rotation, not seeing it at the moment. But Fleming Island and Doctors Inlet would be impacted soon by this storm. And then very near the Buckman Bridge, moving through Orange Park, maybe Argyle Forest as well, perhaps as far east as at least very near Mandarin as it moves into southern Duval County and the south side of Jacksonville, Trevor.
I want to point out is the speed of these storms. We've been saying it's pretty fast. So Lake City, the heaviest of rain is done for you. The severe thunderstorm warning has been canceled for Columbia County. As you can see, the back edge of that line of thunderstorms has now passed east of Lake City and much of Columbia County. Still seeing the very heavy rain from McClinney up towards northern Baker County into the Okefenokee Swamp, and now across Duval County. That's where we're looking at more of that steady and heavier rain moving in, and that's going to take the visibility down on the roadways, especially with the wind whipping around as well. So travel again will be quite hazardous. We've still got this severe thunderstorm warning for Clay County the next couple of minutes as that's going to lift to the north, to be determined whether or not that'll be extended to include Duval County. Whether or not it is, just a heads up, this is lifting north and east, so that will be moving into parts of northern St. Johns and Duval County as well over the next half hour over the St. Johns River, the Buckman Bridge right there on Interstate 295. Going to see some very heavy rain and the wind coming in from the south. That's a crosswind over the bridge, so that's going to make travel a bit bumpy there over the bridge like we've seen throughout the course of today. But still, the lightning across western Duval County up into western Nassau County as well from Briceville northward toward Hilliard. Mike, some pretty dangerous weather.
And I'm just getting a report. You mentioned Bryceville. Just getting a report there that they're carefully looking out here and seeing this had a burst of wind move through Bryceville just within the last few minutes. And that's no surprise. That's with this storm more than likely that is in the red here that continues to move off to the northeast. And so that's going to impact Callahan and Hilliard, mainly Callahan, over just the next few minutes. But that's the storm that produced the burst of wind in Bryceville. So that's going to move northeast towards central portions of Nassau County, heads up for Callahan. You may see some tree damage here as that moves northeast. Let's track it, Trevor. Northeast bound across Highway 200, across Highway 1 here in the next minute or two, and then it's to I-95. Moving northeast 50 to 60 miles per hour. So that puts it into Ratliff at 236, Callahan at 238, Yulee at 251. We're now at the I-95 corridor area, and Yulee Elementary School neighborhood at about 251. But again, virtually all schools are now out or didn't even open up today. And then those storms extend northward into southeastern Georgia. Let's go south to the cell that's approaching Orange Park. We have a First Alert Skycam network at Club Continental in Orange Park. So this storm that we've been concerned about, it looks like it just missed Green Cove Springs, very close, might have just gotten on the eastern edge. So Fruit Cove, Mandarin, Blanding Boulevard, we're on street level mapping now. Looks like it goes just slightly east of Oakley. If this one particular cell heads up for Bay Meadows too, this will move northeast. Let's take a look at our Orange Park First Alert Skycam network right now. And there you can see we're looking toward the south. There are a few raindrops on the lens. It's breezy, but it doesn't look to be exceptionally windy. The river is not all that rough at the moment. But as that storm moves in, we would expect a burst of winds as well over just the next 5, maybe 7, 8 minutes or so. Realize these trees are blocked by the, oh, there's some lightning. Those trees are blocked by the building, which the winds will be likely, in this case, coming from the south, with the storm coming from the south. The line of storms, the winds will shift to out of the west, by the way, once that line comes in. But in this case, it should be a burst of winds out of the south any minute here for the Orange Park area as this storm moves up from Clay County northeastbound toward the Buckman Bridge and the south side of Jacksonville, Trevor.
Yeah, we're seeing the heavier rain fill into the metro area now, like you just mentioned, coming in and approaching Orange Park. But I want to put this into motion and zoom it out regionally just to say we've still got very heavy rain in Folkestone. It's really been coming down for the last half hour or so, but you're nearing the back edge of that all the way down towards Lake City now, seeing some lighter rain filling in, some lightning strikes in northern Duval County. So you're hearing that thunder, and we're going to continue to track this here. We've got no active tornado warnings in our area, but numerous severe thunderstorm warnings that go all the way to the coast of southeastern Georgia. And that's where we do find in Glenn County, Camden County, for Brunswick, St. Simon's Island, Cumberland Island, Jekyll Island, seeing those gusty winds pushing offshore now, and a lot of lightning over the I-95 corridor. So if you're traveling north on I-95 in southeastern Georgia, Glenn, Camden County, and if you're traveling south on I-95 in those same areas, you're running into a lot of heavy rain with this severe thunderstorm. And it should last about another 30 or so minutes, depending on the direction you're heading. Some lighter rain just in between Brunswick and Waycross, so there will be some breaks in the activity as all of this will clear the coast in the next couple of hours. And we've still got a little bit longer for that severe weather threat, but it will be coming to an end, obviously, once these storms do push offshore. But we're continuing to monitor this very carefully, especially as this enters Duval County.
It will be an abrupt end from west to east. It'll clear out in a hurry. By sunset, if it's not all done with, it will be all done with for most of the area, and the exception might be parts of Putnam and southern St. Johns County, and then we can all rest easy this evening. I think what might be kind of interesting is to put the wind speeds on here, our velocities, you guys, and just track some of the winds that we have. It looks like a burst of wind is moving into Gainesville right now. And that some of those stronger winds where you see the color, the blue color here, that'll be moving up into Duval County soon. Again, we're pretty far from the radar site by the time you get to Gainesville, so that wind is elevated, no doubt. But some of it may be translated to the surface, maybe mixed down to the surface because of the very strong wind. And see, there you go. 100 miles per hour. That is not likely being realized at the surface because the radar beam, when you see it going around here, each increment that you get away from the radar site, which is at the International Airport, north of downtown Jacksonville, northern Duval County, by the time you get to Gainesville, the tilt on that radar is something like this. It's a solid, gosh, it's every bit of 30 to 40 degrees, if not more, Trevor, I would say, yeah, on a radar beam. So you're looking up here thousands of feet. But having said that, the point is that as this wind moves to the northeast quickly with each area of rain and storms, sometimes some of that wind can get mixed down all the way to the ground, and that's when we'd get trees uprooted and damaged, and the potential for damage to power lines as well. Trevor?
Yeah, I just want to point out, Mike, we're keeping a close tabs and communication with the National Weather Service. We're likely going to see a potential tornado warning, including Gainesville, pretty soon as this comes through. And you know what happens after Gainesville? This moves into northeast Florida. So we're going to be watching that very carefully over the next couple of frames here to see how the wind evolves, how that couplet might develop with those strong winds, whether or not they reach the ground, but still seeing very heavy rain and strong winds streaming all across the region from the south and west, Mike.
All right, so movement is northeast. If we have a tornado warning issued for Alachua County and Gainesville, it could potentially be expanded to include parts of Bradford, maybe Putnam and Clay County, Garrett.
Yeah, we just got one issued for Alachua County there until 3:15. Mike, and you were talking about the radar beam. I was just measuring it and have a tool that I can do that. So this orange park cell, about 1,200 feet off the ground is what we're slicing it with. First Alert Doppler HD. Here in Gainesville, it's about 5,600 feet from Jacksonville. So the height differential there, you can see while we're seeing 100-mile-an-hour winds way up in the sky where it's really windy right now, even above Jacksonville. But here closer to Orange Park, only about 1,100, 1,200 feet off the ground. But again, a new tornado warning in Alachua County right now.
So that includes obviously UF, University of Florida, which Florida State canceled classes today. I'm not sure on the status of UF, but they are under a tornado warning right now, the entire campus. And notice the northern edge of that tornado warning. Clap of thunder here at CBS 47 and Fox 30 Action News, Jax. But the northern edge of that tornado warning is right at Bradford County. So Highway 301 cuts through far northwestern Clay County into Stark and eastern Bradford County. There it is, comes into view. Highway 301. Once you're at about Waldo, you're in a tornado warning here. So it's very close to our viewing area and has the potential to be eventually extended and pushed to the north and northeast with time. So heads up Stark and nearby areas and the Highway 301 corridor between Stark and northern portions of Alachua County over just the next few minutes as this cell moves to the northeast and again moving 50 to 60 miles per hour. Trevor is tracking the circulation. This is not the leading edge of the storm or the higher winds necessarily, but it is the circulation that might contain a tornado. Into Alachua at 244, Plano at 3 o'clock straight up, Hampton, and now we're crossing into Bradford County at 3:05, and then there you are at Stark at 3:09. Again, the tornado warning does not include Stark at the moment. You are under a severe thunderstorm warning, but you may have tornadic-like winds soon by 3:09, if not a little bit earlier. Lottie then headed up Highway 301 a little north of Stark would be at about 3:16. This is a tornado warning for Alachua County. It includes Gainesville and may eventually have to be extended northeastbound. We'll see for parts of Bradford and Clay County if it maintains itself. Also, I'm curious about the cell now that is entering southern Duval County, Trevor, that we were tracking so much and still is kind of sitting out on its own, but is kind of behaving itself, if you will. It's heavy, no doubt. There's some lightning. There's heavy rain, but it doesn't look otherwise particularly suspicious if we put the wind on there. And we're on street level mapping now, so it's just crossed the Buckman Bridge, and we have a camera there, so let's take a look at our traffic cam. There's some of the wind associated with the cell, and that's moving to the northeast, and we'll be into Bay Meadows soon. Our traffic cam is on that storm. Here's 54-mile-per-hour winds now indicated near the Buckman Bridge, and we have the traffic camera there now, and there it is. And we're now, you can see the camera shaking because of the wind more than likely. Some wave action on the river, although it's protected a little bit between the two bridges. And the visibility is low, no doubt. You see the headlights are on, obviously a good idea, and the law has now been passed that if you feel it's unsafe on the interstate and the visibility is so low, you can put on your warning flashers and you will not be ticketed now in Florida. That was a new law passed last year. But slow go, no doubt, right now as this storm heads across the Buckman Bridge into the south side of Jacksonville, Garrett.
Tracking a new tornado warning, Mike, just issued for Camden and Glenn counties. This is likely that same cell we were tracking a little bit ago here. So we do have a new one to give you information about here at until 3:15 p.m. So it's 2:42 right now. 3:15 Camden and Glenn counties here. Trevor's tracking it on Max 1 here. We'll look at that one as it approaches the coastline and is going to move offshore likely pretty quickly. But we are seeing there's the red polygon, including the bluffs here. This is including Glenn County as well. So it looks like portions of Jekyll Island also included in this tornado warning. As we zoom in, there's Jekyll Island coming out there. So Jekyll Island, you're under this tornado warning if you're watching us here. And also also Dover Bluff Road. We're seeing this wind. There is a little bit of that wind here, a little bit of a circulation there. So, Mike, this is the circulation that the National Weather Service has pulled the trigger on, and so to speak, for this. Trevor's going to track it also, moving to the east pretty quickly here. So, yeah, Jekyll Island, 255, Mike. We're going to be watching this one closely as well. Been tracking this storm since into, yeah, right there. There's the kink developing now.
That's about as strong a signature as we've had recently, you guys. So heads up, Jekyll Island and nearby areas. There's 520 and Highway 520, and the movement is east-northeast. It's moving quickly. We just got an update in the last 30 seconds, and that puts it northeastbound into Jekyll Island within the next 5 to 10 minutes. Now, we realize there may also be strong winds out ahead of this, not even related to the circulation as well. So strong straight line damaging winds would be a possibility. It looks like this would go just a little bit south of St. Simon's Island. And oh, goodness gracious, this is the shear. This is the rotational shear I believe you guys have put on here, correct?
Yeah.
So Garrett, let's talk about this.
Let's come over here. This is the First Alert Storm Analyst, and I've got the satellite information. This is the southern tip of Jekyll Island right now here. So we are watching. What this is showcasing is basically some intense turbulence essentially in the atmosphere, and that has given us an indication, especially with these brighter colors and that little icon here. Kind of looks like a tornado, right? And so that is what we're watching, and I just pushed it back a couple of frames and it went off from southwest to north and east, and this is what prompted the National Weather Service in Jacksonville to issue a tornado warning. There's the winds too, so we're lining it up with our storm winds here with intense winds here moving into, again, the southern tip of Jekyll Island. We want you to be advised you're under a tornado warning. We want you to take your tornado precautions here right now. It'll be over the water pretty quickly. But with that east to northeast movement, that is the southern tip of Jekyll Island. So this is one of those situations where it may even briefly become a waterspout and then back over land before it moves out over the Atlantic. If there is something there, we don't have confirmation yet that there is anything on the ground, but at least there is something going on in the sky. There's some spin going on in the sky that is allowing for that tornado warning here as it moves off. Again, until, what was it, 3:15? With the tornado warning here now at 2:45. This will be racing offshore likely before 3:15. But there's the southern tip of Jekyll Island. This is our storm analyst showcasing the debris. So we're trying to see if there is debris. Right now, not a concentrated area of lowering values here, which shows up as blue here on our First Alert Storm Analyst. Mike is driving this for me. Thank you there. So we are seeing that well east of Woodbine, Georgia. Not really seeing anything that just shouts at me that there's twigs or trees or anything like that flying up into the sky. But we do have a kink here with our traditional radar that you're used to seeing on First Alert Doppler HD right about there. And that's where that, what we call a tornado vortex signature, or TVS, shows up here and now is racing off to the east-northeast there toward the southern tip of Jekyll Island. So, Mike, we are continuing. Yeah, it is stretching out a little bit. So not as intense as it was maybe 5 minutes ago. So we are seeing with that updated radar frame there that's just into us here on our First Alert Storm Analyst as it, again, moves off, Mike, very close and will likely pass over at least that portion of the cloud there over southern Jekyll Island.
Yeah, we continue to be able to use our tools here this afternoon, you guys, that are so handy. First Alert Storm Analyst, our First Alert Doppler HD, our camera, of course, network, Skycam networks, our Department of Transportation cameras, our cameras on the highways and interstates. Buckman Bridge right now. Let's go there real quickly. The visibility has dropped even lower as this strong storm moves. Look at that. It is just pouring. The winds are strong on the Buckman Bridge. Doesn't look at anything like at 2:45 or 2:47 in the afternoon. Looks much later, right? And this is the kind of thing we're dealing with this afternoon. It'll be a slow early commute. But if you have to travel a little later this afternoon or early this evening, it will quickly clear out, as we've been mentioning. But we have 2 tornado warnings that are of concern right now: Camden and Glynn County in Georgia that we've been closely examining the last few minutes; Alachua County that includes Gainesville that may eventually have to be expanded northeastbound up Highway 301. And then severe thunderstorm warnings are in effect for virtually this entire area of yellow, orange, and red. Which is strong thunderstorms that may be producing damaging winds, certainly very heavy rain and frequent lightning. We have a new update in from the National Weather Service, and this appears to be part of the severe thunderstorm warning for southern Georgia. Trevor, is that the update that we're getting, or is
Yeah, just talk about the fast storm movement with these in excess of 60, 65 miles per hour,
Okay.
perhaps even higher, close to 70 with some of these storms moving very, very quickly. So in addition to the 2 tornado warnings, we've also got those severe thunderstorm warnings, and that's continuing to bring down the heavy rain and those gusty winds. Could see some power outages, some spotty tree damage as well if you're definitely driving on bridges and overpasses. This is the time of the day that we've been giving you the first alert to that we're going to see some of those strongest wind gusts in the strongest parts of the storm. I'm not seeing any significant intensification compared to what we've been looking at for the last half hour, so that's good news, but they are maintaining their strength. And again, we do have that 1 tornado warning that is associated with a cell approaching Jekyll Island in the next couple of minutes. So if you're in Jekyll Island, you need to make sure you're taking that shelter right now, lowest level of the home, most interior space that you're in. We're also watching the cell moving towards Gainesville currently. There's another tornado warning in effect for Gainesville. That is until 3:15 this afternoon. So a lot going on, Mike and Garrett, as we continue to track these coming in very quickly.
Yeah, Garrett's got First Alert Storm Analyst working that and driving it right now. So let's head to that computer. That's computer number 2. And it does continue to look like the storm that triggered the tornado warnings is stretching out. So Garrett's taking it back in time, and that's the circulation, which initially was pretty compact and an indication of a possible tornado. But look how it has stretched out over just the last few minutes. Much more of an indication of strong straight line winds now. It still could do damage. Could be damage that's similar to an EF0 or EF1 tornado. And this is the shear that's indicated within the storm. And there's certainly plenty of that. You can see it's moved across Dover Bluff Road. We're on street level mapping, headed to the east-northeast very soon. We've been talking a lot about Jekyll Island. Jekyll Island, you'll have the most intense part of this storm. There's the southern tip of the island, so you're likely to see